Hey everybody, welcome here to this week's edition of Racing Hotspot. Devin Lesney, Jordan Jenkins. Jordan, it's been a week since we last talked. How have you been, and what's been happening in your world as far as motorsports and everything?
I've been good on terms of the motorsports front, pretty much nothing because NASCAR had the week off because obviously it was Super Bowl weekend. So
Hmm. Yep, Super Bowl happening this weekend. Kansas City Chiefs taking the W. Now, as a Bills fan, that hurt, but congrats to the Chiefs. Um, Wheel and Modified Tour though race this weekend. Did they
yep,
had
in New
their
Smyrna.
Yep, their season opener. Ron Silk with the win. Jordan, you were able to watch part of it, or at least see how it went. Why don't you tell us
Mhm.
about how that race was?
Yeah, obviously, that was their opening race down at New Smyrna Speedway in Florida, which is I think like 15 minutes from Daytona.
Yeah, it's right around the
And there
corner, I
was
think.
there was a lot of cars in the entry list. 34 cars, all 34 made it into the field.
Wow.
And two of the big names that were in that race was Ryan Newman and obviously current Cup Series driver Ryan Preece. And yeah, like you said, Ron Silk with the win. He's the reigning modified champion, winning it in 2023, and he led 97 of 200 laps. Obviously, it seems like wow, he dominated it, but honestly, it was a pretty good race. It was your classic wheel and modified tour race. Obviously, some of the best racing you'll have in the country, and definitely in the East Coast. But the top 10 were Ron Silk got the win. Justin Bonsignor got finished second, and his new look modified is now white. Same number, same sponsor, just his car's now white instead of the black that it was. Doug Kobe finished third, who's running a part-time schedule. Patrick Emmerling in his new modified toy ride, driving the number one, finished fourth despite a issue on lap 127. Trevor Catalano, a rookie, finished fifth. Austin Beers finished sixth. Tyler Ripkema in the 32 finished seventh. Andrew Crouch finished eighth. Jake Johnson, who's now full time in that legendary number three car, finished ninth. And Matt Hirschman finished 10th. Ryan Priest and Ryan Newman finished 13th and 14th, just outside. But I mean, I saw highlights. I saw probably about three-quarters of the race from what Flow Racing was able to provide without having a full racing subscription. And it was just a classic, great modified race all around. A lot of action. Despite Ron Silk finishing leading 97 of 200 laps, there are still a lot of lead changes, and obviously the whole pack was up close together. And
Newsom,
obviously, every time you can see Ron Silk and Justin Bonsignor battle for the lead, it's always a great show.
I was gonna say New Smyrna. I've That's a racetrack I've been trying to get to. Obviously or obviously to you, Jordan, I should say. Yeah, I got family down in Florida, so every time I go down there, it's like, what are we doing on a Saturday night? What about New Smyrna? But from what I've seen, at least, that track is built for those types of modifieds. It's got enough room that you can not have to beat and bang, but at the same time, it's close enough where it provides that great racing. And um, I think it's a great place. Like when NASCAR announced, what, 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, that New Smyrna was going to be the kickoff to the series season for at the time, a new, because they merged the Whelen Modified South and the Whelen Modified North into one tour. I think there was a lot of people out there who said, "Oh man, what are we doing? Why are you taking guys from Connecticut and making them drive to Florida?" But I think that at the end of the day, it has created such a great product and a great season opener. So much so that we're modified fans because we've seen the tour at Monadnock. I saw the tour at Loudon last year. I think you saw it at. Did you see it at Lee or one of the other
I did
tracks?
not. I was with you at the Monadnock one. I saw them at Loudon, and then I saw them at Monadnock again in
Right.
September.
I remember you saw 3 modified races last year, but
Yes.
those are great tours. That's a great
Mhm.
series, and I think that um,
It's
I,
a great series that deserves more recognition than what it does. Obviously, it's on Floor Racing, but obviously NBC does have the rights to it, but it's not until a week after because of the whole Floor Racing contract.
right.
So,
No, I mean, but I guess what I was going with that is the moving it to New Smyrna brought more eyes to it, and I think that's great for the series. I think it's great for
Mm.
them. Now, was Justin Bonsignor in the race?
Yes, he finished second.
Okay, so I missed
He
that,
has a
but
new he has a new look car. Like I said
mhm,
when I was announcing the results, he has a new his he's still driving the number 51, but instead of a black modified, his car is now white.
nice. Well, he
I saw
got
the look of it I saw the look of it on Saturday, and it's a pretty nice look. It's pretty nice looking.
nice. Now he got a ride in the ARCA Menard series for this
Yep,
year, which
starting on Saturday.
yeah, which
Well,
is
actually, we don't know. He obviously has to make it because there's like 50 cars in the entry list for ARCA.
yeah. He has the ride. He just needs to now qualify for the show,
Yeah. But
which is
obviously,
awesome.
going back to the modified tour, there's actually some new names in it this year. Obviously, Brian Roby, who is from Sunapee, New Hampshire,
Hmm.
used to race in the well, he still does, but races in the National Modified Series around New Hampshire. But he's also announced that him and his race team are going to try to run all the Wheel Modified Tour races this year.
That's awesome.
Obviously, he used to run just Monadnock and all that, but now he's running everything. And unfortunately, Doug Kobe, obviously, who was full time, he won the Whalen Granite State Short Track Cup last year, announced that they're only doing part time schedule. So those races are obviously he raced at New Smyrna and finished third.
Hmm.
The next race for the modified tour is not till March 29th. Obviously, they got a long break, but he'll be racing at March 29th at Riverhead or Richmond on March 29th, Riverhead on May 18th. He's going to be in Loudon on June 22nd, and then he's going to be in Thompson for the dates.
So forgive me because I mean I follow the mods, but I'm a very casual fan, I guess you could say. But besides Richmond and New Smyrna, every other race that they race in is in New England, right? Or is there a couple other southern tracks?
Martinsville.
Martinsville. Okay.
They do Martinsville. That's their championship race.
Right. Okay. And that's with the Cup
But
weekend in
and
October.
then they do North Wilkesboro. They're doing North Wilkesboro in October, and then they do Oswego.
Oh, okay. All right.
But everything else is Lancaster, Monadnock at 3 dates, Loudon, Seekonk, Riverhead. So pretty much it's all New England after that. Besides those 4 dates.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, and that's awesome for us New England fans because I think
Yeah,
Seekonk might be the furthest racetrack in New England for us, and that's like 2.5 hours away. Now, granted,
yeah,
we're based out of the Lakes region of New Hampshire, but still, um, no, I mean, I think that they're going to have a great season. The mods have, like I said, since that merge a couple years ago, they've gone through that those growing pains and everything, but for the most part, it was a smooth transition and resulted in a really good situation. And I liked the fact that when this happened, they were going to the short tracks that we were seeing because I think prior to that, you know, you would for me at least, I would see the modifieds race at Loudon, and
hmm
then I would hear they race at Riverhead, you know, and then maybe a race. I don't even know if they raced anywhere else, but like up here, I mean, in New Hampshire. But like the fact that they go to Monadnock, the fact that they go to Lee, they went to Lee, you know, I think one year I might be talking out of place here, but I think White Mountains was on the schedule at one point. Like they're going to these short track series, these short track events, and it's great because that is it's NASCAR. You know, yeah, it's the quote unquote fourth tier, but still it's NASCAR. You got NASCAR officials, you got NASCAR inspections. It is it is the show.
right. But yeah, going back to what you said about the ARCA series, obviously Justin Bond Senior is, I think, racing in his first stock car in his
Wow.
racing career. Could be wrong, but
Mm.
he's one of the 50 drivers on the entry list for the ARCA Menard series, and
Jeez.
only 40 make it. So that's a huge thing. Just to name a few names that are in that ARCA race. Obviously, you have Justin Bonsignor, but you also have pretty much the talk of NASCAR ever since that Chicago Street race is Shane Van Gisbergen.
Mm.
He's going to attempt the race at Daytona in a ARCA car. Obviously, he is going to be in the Xfinity Series race as well, starting full time. But 50 cars for 40 spots in the ARCA race at Daytona. That's going to be
That's insane.
something. That's for sure.
That's insane. I mean, and especially at a track like Daytona where a couple tenths off could be the difference between 30th and 50th,
Exactly.
or even 20th. But no, that should be fun. Obviously, the Arca Menards race on Saturday before the Xfinity race.
Yes.
They qualify on Friday night as well, so we'll know before race day who made it, who didn't, um, and that'll be good. So that kind of brings us to the speed weeks, and we can kind of I'm gonna throw off the schedule or name off the schedule here real quick, and then we can circle back around to some of these events. But tomorrow night we're recording this on Tuesday, February 13th. Tomorrow night, the 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. What's the best way to give yourself a Valentine than winning the pole for the Daytona 500? Uh, so that's pole qualifying tomorrow night, 8:15. Then on Thursday we got some practices and the duels for the Cup Series. Um, on Friday, we got some more practices as well as the truck race and a couple qualifying sessions. And on Saturday, final practice for the Cup race, qualifying for the Xfinity race, Arca Menards 200, and then the United Rentals Xfinity race on Saturday night. And then, of course, Sunday, the big show, the 66th annual Daytona 500. Um, so again, we can circle back around to talk about the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series and all that. But the big question that I felt like we should talk about here going into this week, because again, it was an off week for the big show. Obviously, the mods raced, but for the Cup Series and the Xfinity and Truck Series, it was an off week. But the big question I think has been talked about a lot lately in recent years. A couple of the podcasts, Denny Hamlin's podcast has mentioned it. Door Bumper Clear's mentioned it. Dale Jr.'s mentioned it. These bigger podcast names have mentioned it. The fact that these cars roll off of the truck and go directly into qualifying for the biggest race of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to add some context or to some background, I guess you could say to this, prior to, and I believe it was prior to COVID, these cars would have qualifying the week before. It was the day after the Busch Clash that was on the Super Speedway at the time. But prior to that, they also had practice. They had like one or two 50-minute practices for the cars to go out and do whatever they needed to do to get ready for qualifying on Sunday. Now, I'm all for moving, qualifying to a Wednesday night because it's like prime time Wednesday night. Like, it gives us race fans something to watch because technically starting Wednesday, you got racing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, it's like, let's go. Whereas in the past, it was Saturday, Sunday, then Monday, nothing, Tuesday, nothing, Wednesday, nothing, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'm all for that kind of condensed schedule. But what I'm not necessarily for is the fact that these guys go out on the racetrack with cold tires and never even looked at the track since August and try to win the pole and secure a front row starting spot for the biggest race of the year with no practice time.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, you have the duels on Thursday that set the rest of the order, but the qualifying on Wednesday sets the first and second position.
Right.
And like you said, they kind of just get it off the truck. I believe the haulers probably show up, I would assume today.
Probably.
They would show up, so they probably may be there now
Mm-hmm.
or getting there within the next couple of hours. But yeah, they unload the car and then get it ready for qualifying tomorrow night, and then they go for the duels.
Right. I mean, and
And then
now,
after the duels, they have practice, I believe, every day until Sunday.
yeah,
I
I was
believe they
gonna
have
say,
practice Friday and Saturday.
yeah, I mean, they have qualifying Wednesday night. And then the next time the Cup cars, according to this schedule, the next time the Cup cars are on track is for the duels. And then on Friday, you have one practice at 5:30 p.m. Saturday, you have final practice at 10:30 a.m. and then Cup Series. So even then, you have two practices that it doesn't tell me the length of them, but I would assume. Well, I mean, the final practice 10:30 and then 11:30 is qualifying for the Xfinity Series. So you're probably looking at a 45 minutes to an hour practice. So
Mm-hmm.
it's let's say that's the same thing on Friday. So you have 2 hours worth of practice, two 60-lap races or a 60-lap race, and 2 laps on the track to prepare you for the Great American Race. It just, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm a NASCAR driver, but that doesn't necessarily line up for me.
Right, no, exactly.
So I don't know, and I don't even know how NASCAR could fix that. I mean, if we look at like the Truck Series, these guys show up on Friday, or this week they have practice Thursday, then on Friday they have qualifying and the race. So why couldn't you, if you have practice at 8:15, why not put an hour long practice at 6:30 tomorrow night? Even if
Yeah,
Fox or nobody covers it TV wise, which I mean all of us want to watch practice because anytime cars are on track, but like
right.
even if Fox says, hey, we can't support that window, that stinks, but you're
Yeah, I
still
don't know,
getting on track
and
time.
it's weird when you think about it when the ARCA Menard series, Xfinity and Truck all have a practice before they qualify.
Right,
I mean, obviously, technically, the Cup have the Busch Light Pole qualifying tomorrow night at 8:15, and then
right.
they have the Blue Green Vacations duels 1 and 2 on Thursday night after ARCA Menards and Truck Series practice. It's
Exactly.
just they don't have a practice until Friday night ultimately, and they practice at 5:35, and then they have one more practice session on Saturday.
Right. I mean, it's so funny because the argument could be made, oh, well, the Cup Series has the most amount of on track time, which is true, but at the same time, your every other series, as you mentioned, has at least one practice session before they qualify. So it's like, and granted, the argument to this, and I'm gonna loosely quote Denny Hamlin: Cup Series guys are supposed to be the best in the world. In theory, they're not coming out onto the track cold turkey, right? But at the same time, as Denny Hamlin and other drivers have said, the track is always changing.
Mm-hmm.
Your track is going to run one way today, and then tomorrow night can be completely different. And I know that then kind of sounds like it's combating my own thought of why have practice if it's going to change. But at least your car isn't going to have an engine issue. So it just, I don't know. It's that is one of again one of the questions that have been on the board for probably 2 or 3 years now, and it's brought up every time we go to Daytona for Speedweeks, and every other place has practice or a version of practice. Why don't we have it for our Super Bowl?
Exactly.
Imagine the 49ers in Kansas City showing up to Vegas right off the plane, and it's like, all right, national anthem in 10 minutes. No way. No
Mm-hmm.
way. I
I
don't know.
mean, in the Cup Series, obviously they're the only ones that have a race to qualify with the duels.
Right,
So they don't go out and do single car qualifying or since it's a super speedway, they would do two car qualifying, obviously.
right,
They have two cars out there at once, but I mean, it's just weird how the Cup Series they kind of do things differently for them compared to obviously ARCA, Truck, and Xfinity. And obviously, like you said, what Denny has said is they're expected to be the best drivers in NASCAR being in the Cup Series.
right. Yeah, I mean, again, I see both sides as it seems like you do as well. Like you can sit there and make the argument for both sides, but I don't know. I just feel like these drivers, you know, Denny Hamlin's going to fly out of North Carolina tomorrow afternoon to fly down to Daytona for qualifying. That's great. Before he does that, he'll probably stop at the Toyota Racing Development place, or not place, the TRD shop, and run the simulator for an hour or two. That's fine. It gets him used to how Daytona used to run. But there's still, and the simulators are great, but there's still that difference between sitting in the car on the simulator and then getting into the actual race car. So I don't know. I don't think NASCAR ever gave us a distinct reason why. Like when they went to we're going to shorten the weekend. The Hall of Parade now is the trucks are going to come in on Friday in Loudon, but they're not going to be on track till Saturday. The reason
Mm-hmm.
was we're going to save money and shorten the weekend. As fans who camp at the racetrack, that's like the worst thing ever. But I understand why they did it, and they gave the
Mm-hmm.
reasoning. Great. But then they were like, hey, by the way, Daytona, we're just going to qualify and duels, and then we'll have some practices. And we never got a reason.
Right.
So I'd be interested. Not that we could like call Steve O'Donnell or Steve Phillips here or any of the big NASCAR names and say what's the deal. But like still, never got a reason. I don't know what happened.
No.
Just lost practice time, man. But I don't know. I don't know. What are your storylines, or your, let me phrase that, what are you looking at or looking forward to the next 5 days in Daytona? Like, obviously the storylines of the 500, and then like some new guys in the 500. Healy Deegan running the Xfinity Series, you know, Vang, SVG going for the ARCA race to then make the Xfinity Series to qualify, quote unquote, qualify for the Xfinity race and NASCAR standards. Like, what are you looking forward to the most in the next 5 days?
I mean, honestly, I'm looking forward to the Xfinity Series. I mean, obviously, yeah, I'm looking for the Daytona 500, but just to be different, the Xfinity Series, just because a lot of the new names that have entered the Xfinity, or even new team or drivers with new teams. One thing that's interesting to know, right, as of right now, SVG is not cleared to be at the race in the Daytona 500, the
Xfinity.
Xfinity Series race at Daytona. I don't know necessarily why, but he has to be approved for something because it's his first super speedway.
That is mind blowing. Like, I don't know. Anyways, go on. I'll go back to that.
So currently, right now, the number 97 colleague Xfinity car is to be announced. I assume SVG will be cleared to
So
race in that.
that would be that's his car.
Hmm.
But if he doesn't qualify in the Nat or meet the NASCAR standards for a super speedway, you could have somebody else come in and run that car. Interesting.
Yes.
Now, ARCA practice, or yeah, ARCA practice and qualifying Friday. Then the Xfinity Series practices and qualifies after them.
So for Friday, it's for Friday
Well,
or
no,
third.
I'm just saying in
Arca
general.
Arca's his first practice is Thursday,
So I wonder if that's when NASCAR's going to.
4:05.
I wonder if
The
that's when.
Xfinity touched the track for the first time on Friday at 4:35 for practice. They don't qualify until Saturday,
So
they don't qualify until Saturday morning, the day of the race.
I just wonder what NASCAR's thought process is here, because I heard that they're going to have him run the ARCA race to be cleared to run the Xfinity race. That's all well
Hmm.
and good, but is he going to practice and qualify the car before the ARCA race? Because, I mean, you mentioned it. You have ARCA practice, and then ARCA qualifying, Xfinity practice, qualifying, ARCA race. So are we using ARCA practice and qualifying as the as the the benchmark to say yes, you're good, or are we using somebody else to qualify and practice the car, and then SVG is going to run the ARCA race, and at the end of that race, NASCAR says you're good, and then he goes into the Xfinity race without any seat time? That doesn't make sense to me. So I would like to believe, Jordan's thinking and looking through some notes over here, I would like to
Yeah,
believe that,
I'm trying to find the reasoning of why he's not cleared for Daytona yet.
yeah, fair enough.
But so apparently, Shane Van Gisbergen has to, which this does obviously this is just from a fan on Twitter under Progress's entry list Xfinity tweet that says he has to he has to run the ARCA race first to be cleared, which doesn't make sense to me because that means he won't.
Get any
I
seat
don't know if
time in
that
the
means he
Xfinity.
can't. I don't know if that means he can't be in the Xfinity car for practice or qualifying, or if that just means he can't be in the race until he runs an ARCA race, the ARCA race.
I mean, and I would understand if NASCAR says, all right, we're going to have you qualify, and then, yay, you're good. You made the field. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if that's what the situation would be, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
I just gotta assume that he's gonna be in that in the 97 for the Xfinity race.
Right. I mean, and I can understand that NASCAR says, you know, we still want you to run the ARCA race, but I wonder if there's going to be like a quote unquote pre approval. You know, you ran out and you qualified for the ARCA race. Cha-ching! Now you can go practice and qualify the Xfinity car, but there's still a chance that after the ARCA race you don't run. But I don't know. It doesn't make sense. And again, NASCAR probably has all this lined up and has it all figured out and written down. So we'll have to just see how it goes.
So according to J-Ski, he did that is true. He does have to run the ARCA race first, and according to this, uh, he can. So Ty Norris, the Trackhouse Racing president, said, based on this quote, I'm sure it seems like he is allowed to practice and qualify the Xfinity car. He just can't race it until that he runs that ARCA race. So it's probably NASCAR looking at, oh, he hasn't run a super speedway yet. We have to see if he's going to be capable of it.
Interesting. That'll be an interesting storyline to follow throughout the weekend and see how NASCAR handles it.
I will assume he's going to be cleared, though. I mean,
right? No, I mean I would assume so too. He's a good driver. I think it's just gonna, and that either colleague or Trackhouse has him on the simulator, learning the ways of a super speedway. This way, when he jumps
definitely.
in that ARCA car, jumps in that Xfinity car, it's not completely out of the blue.
But speaking on the Xfinity Series entry list, there's 44 cars for 38 spots, so 6 cars won't make it in. And among the notable entries are Daniel Suarez, obviously in the Cup Series, and Daniel Dye, who's a star in the upcoming star in the Truck Series after a really strong year last year. AJ Allmendinger is obviously back in the Xfinity Series full time. John Hunter Nemechek will drive the 20. Obviously, that's been announced that he's splitting that time with Eric Almirola in the 20 car. But there's just a lot of new names in the Xfinity Series. Like obviously, like you mentioned, Haley Deegan, Jesse Love's in the 2 car now. Now that Sheldon Creed made the move over to JGR, Chandler Smith is over at JGR. So I think the Xfinity Series is going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I can't wait for Saturday for that race.
Xfinity Series always puts on a good show, no matter where it is, and I think, that kind of goes back to that. Actually, let me rephrase that. That links on, to the idea that you are, the Xfinity car hasn't changed. Yeah, some of the packages have tweaked here and there, but the car itself is the same. So I feel like race cars are kind of like wine. After they sit for a while, they get better. But we will see for sure. So Truck Series runs Friday night. Always a great show as well, just as much as the ARCA and the Xfinity Series. What are your thoughts going into that race, Jordan?
I mean, yeah, obviously they always put on a good show. Usually a shocking winner. Usually, obviously a super speedway. So honestly, anything can happen anyway. But usually the Truck Series always has like a like wow he pulled it off kind of winner. And this one doesn't have as many. There's 38 entries for 36 trucks. Only 2 go home. Obviously, not as big of an entry list as the 500 or the ARCA race or the Xfinity race. But I mean, obviously, there's some new names as well. Obviously, Corey LaJoie is driving the 7 for Spire Motorsports like he did last year. And on top of that, one of the upcoming drivers, Tony Bridinger, is driving the one truck for Tricon Garage. But besides that, I mean, there's not really any new names in the series. I mean, besides Haley Deegan obviously moving out to the Xfinity Series, but there's no really new names besides Ty Dillon, who's driving Matt DiBenedetto's truck at the 25 full time now.
Okay. I'll be interested to see how he does in that ride. He's got talent for sure. I think he's just still trying to find I don't want to say find himself, but you know what I mean. Just trying to
Mm,
find that niche and get it to work. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that should be a good race. Um, I like the fact that there are some new guys and some guys that have left, but at the same time, it's still the bulk of the field because usually the truck series seems to be kind of a revolving door of names. You know, you'll have your core 20, but then 10 will come in and 10 will go out and 10 will start the season and then 10 new ones come in like it. And I mean, and that's kind of the point of, the truck series. You see like what is it, the double A teams like the Fisher Cats and all of them.
yeah,
They'll have players come on and they'll play 3 games and then they get called up and that's it,
yeah.
you know. So,
Carson
um
Host Fire, prime example of that.
exactly.
He doesn't
Exactly.
even need he didn't even ride Xfinity full time. He's now Cup full time.
Now, did he run any Xfinity races? He did, right?
I believe he did.
Okay. All right. 'Cause I was going to say that would be a big, I feel like that's a big jump from a truck with a pickup,
Which
go from a pickup
which
to a Camry.
which by the way, I don't know if you saw, but Bob Progress did announce the Rookie of the Year contenders for all three in National Series.
I missed
For the
that.
truck series, Jones, Moffitt, and Riggs
Hmm.
for the trucks. For the Xfinity series, Dawson Cram, Haley Deegan, Honeyman, Jesse Love, and Ben Gisbergen, obviously the Xfinity's uh, rookies, and then the Cup drivers that could win Rookie of the Year are Josh Berry, Kaz Grala, Carson Hocevar, and Zane Smith.
I gotta put my money on Zane Smith for the Cup one, but
Obviously,
Hocevar.
Hocevar obviously did not is still considered a rookie since he didn't obviously because there's a rule kind of like in baseball. You have to race a certain amount of times in the season and not be considered a rookie. Obviously, Hocevar did not,
Got it.
which is kind of shocking because he did race a lot. I feel like he drove a Cup car at least like for the whole second half of the season.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Hmm. Should be interesting. Good, interesting Rookie of the Year battle there. Um, Transitioning over here real quick to the Xfinity series. Let's Haley Deegan moving from the truck to the Xfinity. She ran a couple Xfinity races last year here and there. I don't want to say she had a stellar show out. She had good, consistent runs, and she was showing that she had talent. But what are your thoughts and or predictions for her going into not only Daytona but this whole season?
I mean, she ran one Xfinity race in her career, which is in 2022 in Las Vegas. I
Oh,
believe she finished in the top 15
I
in
thought
that race.
I thought she ran more than that. I could be
Mm,
wrong. I was wrong. Okay.
yeah, I believe she finished in the top 15. I'm not quite sure. It was in top 15, and if I don't know, I forget what team she did drive for that day.
Hmm.
But I mean, obviously, the truck series, her run the truck series did not go probably the way she wanted to, or a lot of people expected her. But I've always said this: the truck series doesn't really determine how good you are as a racer in NASCAR, obviously, because the trucks are completely different.
Right.
Obviously, she was one of the best drivers in the K&N series that she was in, and I don't know if she ever drove an ARCA.
I don't think she did. I think she went from K&N to trucks, but maybe one or two ARCA starts. But I agree with
But
you on that.
even when you look at the SRX series this past year in her full year, she put on a strong showing. I know there's only 12 cars in the field, but you got to think she's facing current Cup drivers. She's facing current, I say current, but she's facing NASCAR Hall of Famers, and she put on a strong showing. So
Right.
obviously, a car fits her more. Obviously, AM Racing obviously doesn't have the best funding, but I think I think she's gonna have a solid year for Xfinity, especially being back in a stock car.
I agree, and I think going from an ARCA, I mean, the truck is. You're right. It's not necessarily your stock car, but still, the truck is a good step because it kind of gets you used to that bigger engine and the bigger body and all that. But I think that it's going to be good to see how Haley Deegan does. I think it's definitely going to be a challenge for her, but it could be something that leads her to good places. one of the things that I love about Haley Deegan and her situation is that you she's not quote unquote buying her way there. Like you've seen the drivers who come through and yeah, they ran a year of Xfinity, but they got this big name sponsor who says, "Let's go Cup racing." And the team
Hmm.
owner who says, "I really kind of want to have this guy, but this guy doesn't have the funding. This guy does. We'll have him come." Yeah, Deegan's got Monster and she's got other big names with her, but whether or not the sponsors are doing it, she's doing it, her dad's doing it, I don't know. They are doing it, in my opinion, right. Taking their time, working their way up the ranks, kind of like, let's go run truck racing. All right, now we got a better ride with, what was it, GMS? The
AM
Thor Sport.
Racing.
No, Thor Sport in the truck series.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
So you're now in a premier truck series team, Thor Sport. You're doing good. You're not winning races, but it's only your first or second year in Thor Sport. And then now here we are. We're going to go to the Xfinity Series. And overall, as a driver, your goal is to get to the Cup Series. You just want to do it right. You don't, yeah, if you're winning races in the Xfinity Series and getting championships, yay, great. But like, if you don't, but it still gets you to the Cup Series, boom.
Yeah, exactly. Person that I think is a good example of the truck series doesn't define their skill.
Hmm.
Recently, Carson Hostfire. I know he won 4 races last year, but he's been in the Cup Series, the Truck Series for 5 years. His first start was in 2019. All his 4 wins came this past year.
Wow.
So just obviously, yeah, his last year was a strong year, but I feel like obviously the Truck Series doesn't really show what you're really fully capable of.
Yeah, I mean, running the Truck Series, it's good again to kind of get you used to how NASCAR operates at the premier level. But once you get into that Xfinity car, it's kind of like, okay, you're just a step below the Cup car, or in theory, just a step below Cup Series racing. Let's see how you do. And I would say, you know, I would give her 2 or 3 years in the Xfinity Series. Like, she's going to go out and run what she can run. And then hopefully next year she gets picked up like by an RCR or a Joe Gibbs or, one of the bigger names. And then she runs a full year at that level or at that team level. And then I think that third year is when you would then have these bigger cup guys, bigger cup teams saying, "What do you think? You wanna? Do you not wanna? You want to stay at the Xfinity? You want to come to Cup?" Like, I would say that's probably maybe even a fast but realistic timeline.
Yeah, obviously Haley Deegan's contract with AM Racing is multi-year. Obviously, that doesn't really mean much in NASCAR. Obviously, teams jump ship early. Tyler Reddick being a prime example,
Mm.
who this should have been upcoming. I believe it should have been his first year at 2311.
Yeah, this should have been.
But he's already been a year in 2311. So it's kind of a lot of things can happen. But obviously, as
Yeah.
of right now, her deal with AM Racing is a multi-year deal.
I mean, and that's always good as a driver because even if, let's say, you come into this season, and I don't think this is going to happen with her, but this season she comes in and she just crashes and burns. She at least knows, well, I got the seat next year.
Right,
It's
exactly.
not like, hey, guess what? You're in the July August stretch of the season. You need a ride. Like, you got to pull
Right.
together. Like, it's kind of like,
Hmm.
all right, you know. But I don't, like I said, I don't think that's going to happen with Deegan. I think if anything, Deegan's going to, run those 2 years or the multi-year contract with this team, and a driver like Haley Deegan, who is strong and skilled, and she knows what she's doing behind a wheel. She knows what she's doing with the marketing side of things. She's got Brian Deegan as a dad. Like, she's got this really strong family with rich history in not only motorsports but just like the entertainment side of motorsports. I think she's good. I think she's still young. She's our age, right?
Yeah, she's younger than me. She's a month younger than me, and I'm 22.
So okay, so she's 22. She's got plenty of time to get to where she wants to go, and the fact also that she's 22 and she's already in an Xfinity Series ride full time,
Mhm.
based more, I would say, on talent than money. That's good.
Yeah. Yes. And one person, speaking on such on the Xfinity Series topic, is one person that I'm excited to see back in a car, but promoted, is Frankie Muniz,
Mm,
who's driving in a who's going to try to qualify for the Xfinity Series race on Saturday. Obviously, that's someone that really put a shocker in the ARCA series, coming from a pretty much a movie star to racing. He had
yeah.
11 top tens in 20 ARCA races last year. So
Yeah. And
I
the other
mean,
and the other 9 races were accidents that weren't his fault. or
yeah,
or
exactly.
something like that. But yeah, no, he only did he run 1 year ARCA or did he run 2?
1 year,
1 year?
and he had
But
11 top tens in 20 races.
that's amazing. And that's awesome. I agree with you in the shock factor. Um, and again, as much as I jokingly said, "Oh, it was because he was in an accident," there were some races that he was in an accident, but it wasn't his fault, and it
Hmm.
was clearly not his fault. So he's definitely, you're
He
right, one to watch.
he will be driving the 35 car for Joey Gase Motorsports.
That's a solid team too.
Yes.
It's a solid team. Um, no, I'm excited to see. You know, that's awesome. I mean, those two names alone makes me want to tune in on Saturday. Then you throw in
No,
his super.
exactly,
Then you
exactly.
throw in the fact it's Daytona. Like, it's
You
just
throw in the fact that
get
Arca has all those stars too. It's like, oh, what is Saturday?
exactly, exactly. I don't want to do anything on Saturday now.
I
I got
mean, obviously, I usually watch all three series anyway. Sometimes I watch Arca, obviously, if it's on, I'm not doing anything. But
right,
obviously, this weekend's going to be fun overall. Just not even just because of the 500, just the other three series that are along with the Cup Series.
right. Gotta love the DVR when you gotta go work. You could just DVR DVR the race and watch it later. Um, Now Jordan and I have that rule now where if he knows I'm work covering a game, he doesn't text me at all. He'll just be like, "Dude, you gotta watch the race." Like that's it. He just says that, nothing more. You gotta watch it. Okay. Um, no, I mean the Xfinity race on Saturday will be good. I think the Xfinity series this season will be good. I'm excited. You got SVG running, some Xfinity or the full Xfinity schedule
He's
with
full-time Xfinity.
some Cup dates. I'm
And I think
excited.
some truck dates too.
Okay, and that's good. That's another one that I want to, go back to when I just said about Haley Deegan. Same thing with him. He went out, ran the Chicago Street Course,
And
and
one.
won it. You
And people
know,
couldn't, other Cup drivers and even NBC couldn't pronounce his name properly, and like, he still won a Cup race.
right? I mean, he went out and did what he needed to do. He wins the race. Then he runs. What did he run? Did he run another road course later last year? Was it Watkins Glen?
I think so. I know he ran a truck race at the IRP,
Right.
and he had a strong showing there. I think he finished in the top 15.
So either way, whether it was the road course or just the IRP race,
He ran the Indy road course.
that's right. Okay. He also had a strong day there, if I remember correctly. He
Yes,
didn't win,
yes,
but like, point
right.
is there that I was always so. Let me back up. My point being is that could have been an example of a driver getting thrown into a ride right away.
Hmm.
Trackhouse could have said, "Find the money, go get a third car, like let's go." Um, pull in that third charter, things like that. But they said, okay, we're gonna run you with what is it, the Project 91? Is that up there?
Yes, the
Project
Project
91
91.
for a couple races this season, but we're gonna find you a full time Xfinity deal with Colleague, which of course Colleague is like, yeah, come on over, like,
Yeah, college.
and
I think with that, the car's under college, but
is
I
it prepared
think
by
Trackhouse
Trackhouse?
preps it for him.
Okay,
It's under the college banner, but I think Trackhouse preps it for him.
which that right there I think is a great
It's the
partnership
same
between
thing
the
with
two.
Zane Smith.
Mm.
He's technically under the Spire Motorsports is name, I believe, the
Hmm.
banner, but Trackhouse preps his car.
Got it. Right, right, right. Okay. Which I think those are great relationships, because Colleague and Spire are getting really good cars and promoting their brand, which should help them in the long run. Um,
And another person that is under that thing is Justin Haley, who obviously moved to Rick Ray Racing, but they have RFK alliance, so RFK I think preps his car.
got it. No, I mean I think it's I think these alliances are great. Same thing with like 2311 and Joe Gibbs Racing. You have that type of alliance there. I think they're great. Where was I going with that thought? Oh, I liked the fact that with SVG that they said, hey, you know what? We're going to put you full time in Xfinity. We'll have you dabble in some Cup races. We'll have you dabble in some truck races. We'll put you on the truck schedule for tracks that are very unique. That we might not be able to put you in a Cup car for, but at least you'll get like an IRP. At least you'll get an experience of what a very flat oval looks like.
And for the Xfinity series, obviously they go to pretty much the same tracks that the Cup cars go to. Obviously, besides like Portland, obviously
Yep.
the Cup cars don't go there. I'm pretty sure the Xfinity cars are going back to Dakota.
Mm.
Actually, I think the Cup cars are too, but
Yeah.
but he gets all these, especially on the oval. Like he has that one oval experience at IRP. You can guess technically the Indy Road Course, but because that's part of the oval. But overall, it's gonna be interesting to see how SVG does an oval. I think he'll do just fine. I mean,
Oh, I mean,
I
and
don't think he's gonna struggle at all. I mean, who
I
knows?
think
Maybe he wins on Saturday. Maybe he wins the ARC and the Xfinity race on Saturday.
clean sweep. I mean, but then of course the fans would come out and say, "Well, it's Daytona." Whatever.
Right.
Anyways, but I mean, I also think it's great that they have him running the full Xfinity schedule as well because the marketing side of this is it's going to be like, I don't want to say like a world tour, but like you and I got so excited when we saw he was running the full Xfinity series schedule
Because
that
that means,
meant
oh my God,
we're gonna see him at
Oh my
Loudon.
God.
Yeah, like it was like,
I'm
no
pretty sure I
way.
texted you. I'm like, oh my God, I just got so excited for the Xfinity series race.
Exactly. So it's like again from a marketing standpoint, that's a no brainer because yeah, maybe I just watched the Cup Series, but I did see SVG, and he's gonna be here. Maybe I'll go watch that race, or at least I know I can go buy some merch.
And a
So
lot of tracks, the stands are packed for the Xfinity series,
mm,
Loudon being one of them.
mm,
But I can only imagine the seat Xfinity series is going to be a hot ticket now with SVG in the series.
right. I mean, and these tracks can use that also as promotion and be like, hey, the guy who came in from the other part of the world and beat all of our guys is now running our Xfinity race. Like, I think that'll
Right.
be awesome. Um, no, there's a lot to look forward to for sure on Saturday, and that should be a lot of fun. So I think we should spend the next probably 20 or so minutes talking about the Great American Race on Sunday. We kind
The
of
66th annual Daytona 500.
Heck yeah. We kind of sort of talked about it a little bit with the qualifying question and the practice. I mean, more so practice than qualifying question and all of that. But let's talk. And I know it's kind of hard to place quote unquote bets on drivers right now because it's Daytona.
Right.
But what are your thoughts going into that race?
I mean, obviously, that's the biggest race in NASCAR. It's practically a NASCAR Super Bowl, even though it's the beginning of the year compared to the NFL. The Super Bowl's last. But I mean, obviously, it's always great the 500 because obviously you see drivers that, especially like that, used to drive full time have always come back. Like one of them is David Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
He's driving RFK's third car in the 60. But I mean,
That's
obviously the Daytona 500 is only the one race where it's weird where they all won't make it unless excluding the All Star race and the Clash.
mm,
The only regular season race that will count towards points for the playoffs. But I mean, I think it's gonna be another great race. Obviously, we could have a first time winner. We could
always.
have a shocker. We could have someone that's won at super speed that's really good at super speedways win like a Ryan Blaney or a Denny Hamlin or maybe Kyle Busch finally gets that Daytona 500 win.
Now we're recording this on Tuesday. I just opened up my nice weather app on my phone, which is controlled by Weather Channel. So I just want to put that out there as a little disclaimer. But according to Daytona Beach, 48 degrees tomorrow, sunny. Ooh, cold. 50 as it's like 20 here. 53 on Thursday, cloudy. 54 on Friday, cloudy. Saturday, 50% chance of rain, and Sunday, 70% chance of rain. Monday is looking beautiful at the moment. So,
Obviously in Florida that could change.
of course, and that's why I started that little talk with it's Tuesday. Things can A lot can change in the next 3 days, but That
there's 42 entries for the Daytona 500. I believe 39 make it.
either 39 or 40, but it was
But
40 for a while, but I think they changed it to 39.
but the open cars are the 36 of Kaz Gralla, the 60 of David Reagan, the 62 of Anthony Alfredo, BJ McLaren the 78, and obviously the seven-time champ Jimmy Johnson in the 84. All those guys are gonna have to try to qualify, and on top of the 44 car of the NY Racing team that still has a to be announced driver, where a lot of people thought it was gonna be Greg Biffle because I don't know if you saw the video of that hauler coming in. The
Mm.
car on the side of the hauler said Biffle on it.
Hmm.
Greg Biffle released a statement yesterday saying because he hasn't fully finished a contractual obligation in 2022, he's unable to race the 500 on Sunday. So obviously, as of right now, that 44 car the NY Racing team is not yet announced.
Do you
But
think
obviously,
that
that is a car that would have to qualify for the 500 on speed.
do you think they just leave the keys in the ignition? Like if we can get across the fence, you
Yeah,
think we
I mean, I'll drive. I mean, I can
think
drive
we
it.
can I mean, I got a lot of hours on Xbox. I think I
It'll be
can
it'll be it'll be quite the first Daytona 500 experience for me ever as a fan.
yeah. See, here he goes out on the track. Now he's getting stopped by police. Jordan pulled over. I don't know why he pulled over.
It's gonna be like the several years ago where I'm sure. I mean, I wasn't born for it. I don't think you were either when the pace car was stolen at Talladega.
Yeah, no, I don't.
It's gonna be one of
Yeah.
those situations.
They probably have better protocols in place now.
Oh
Um,
yeah, definitely.
but no, I mean, I think that those storylines alone should get you excited for the duels on Thursday. And then guess what? Post duels, we got brand new storylines, which
Yeah,
is just
exactly.
exciting. And
And it's
unfortunately,
like
one of them being the weather. That's why I brought it up.
yeah, and unfortunately, unfortunately, I mean, like last year, one of the prime storylines was Jimmy Johnson come back in the 500. He obviously made it in. I think he qualified even before the duels. He
Mm,
made it in
yeah, because I think
because of his
you can two will qualify in on speed,
yes,
and then
and the others will have to make it in on the duels.
yeah.
Another one that made it in, which I think shocked a lot of people, but it was a great story, was Travis Pastrana,
Mm.
who obviously has been in NASCAR before, didn't quite work out, has unable to qualify for the 500 before, but obviously last year he did make it in on speed. So
Yep.
obviously it's always unknown until really after the duels of what cars are going to make it. Obviously, all the full time guys obviously make it. Obviously, like Denny Hamlin doesn't have to qualify on speed, but obviously the open cars, there's always great storylines there, especially some feel good stories.
For sure. For sure. So transitioning, so let's talk about the 500 with the guys that we know are going to be in it, like the Hamlins and the Wallaces and the Byrons and the Blaneys and the Logano's and everybody. What are your thoughts going into the 500 on Sunday with those? Think about those.
Obviously we have a lot of guys that aren't quite good on super speedways. Obviously, I mean Kyle Busch obviously won the Talladega, but he has not yet won the 500. Logano kind of he was close last year, obviously finishing runner up the Stenhouse, but I mean you have
Logano's won the 500 though.
yeah in 2015.
Yeah.
You have a lot of guys like Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney. I'll even say Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is good on super speedways. You have sure I'm missing several more drivers, but those are the ones that have recently won super speedways. Obviously, you can't ignore Denny Hamlin. He's won 3 Daytona 500s, two of them back to back. And if he wins on Sunday, he would tie for the most Daytona 500 wins. And obviously Ryan Blaney, who has two of the closest finishes in NASCAR history at Talladega.
Mm.
I mean, obviously that's Talladega, but Blaney has been really close to winning the 500 several times.
Yep.
So
Yeah. No, I think the 500 always produces really exciting finishes, even if it's a car out in front and nobody's going next to him to make the photo finish. The other,
like
yeah,
Austin Cindric in 2022, his
right,
first full time Cup start, he won the 500.
right,
I don't think it was his first ever Cup start. I'm pretty sure it was just his first full time Cup start.
yeah, for the full time season. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a toss up. Like, I know I won't open a sports betting app until after I see qualifying. like, but like,
I mean, obviously, I've kind of looked at the odds already, and I know Blaney's the favorite, Hamlin's the second best. And I know if you bet $10 on either of them to win, you win like $200 if they win.
oh, all right, all right. Maybe I'll lay down some early bets. Um, but no, I mean, I think that the 500 in general is always puts on a good show. I feel like for those of us who can't be there, Fox does usually a good job covering it. And they do. I feel like they do a good job with handling it as like the Super Bowl.
And yeah, the one and like their pre-race coverage starts at like 10 a.m. and
Right.
11 a.m. whatever it is. So they have like a 3-hour pre-race show, obviously, kind of,
Which
and they show everything. They show the pre-race concert and
yeah,
all
yeah.
that.
I mean, and it we call it our Super Bowl, so Fox and other media outlets treat it as such.
Hmm.
Last Sunday you were seeing that same type of, maybe across different platforms. So ESPN had from 10 to noon, and then Fox had from noon to 2. But either way, there was a lot of football talk on my TV Sunday during the day. Um,
But
so, yeah,
one thing I will say too is it's gonna be interesting to see if Chevy wins the front row again. Obviously, I think the last time I think I read a couple days ago, the last time that Chevy was not on the front row was 12 years ago,
huh,
12 or 13 years ago. So obviously we know Hendrick usually dominates qualifying. Obviously Bowman and Larson, I think we're back. I think Bowman and Larson went back to back last year, and then 2022, I believe they were both front row.
I think you're right.
Or maybe it was Bowman and someone else, but I know Bowman went back to back poles for the 500. So obviously Chevy is really good at qualifying, but when it comes to the 500, obviously they have a tough go at it.
Now, I think one, and I'm going to play two sides of the coin here, so hold on for this one. One, I think Chevy's got a good chance at it because they did not change their body style from last year to this year. Right? Toyota changed it to the upgraded version or the updated version of the Camry and the dark horse for the Ford now. Point being is usually there's some sort of like growing pain when, even though you do all these preseason tests and air tunnel or wind tunnel and all that, there's usually always that little bit of a slip. With that being said, though, if Ford and Toyota found something, that could be trouble for Chevy because they didn't update.
And
So
I
it's
mean, based on the clash, I mean, obviously Toyota won it because Denny Hamlin obviously ended up in victory lane, and
right.
Kyle Busch obviously was on the podium, but Blaney was on the podium too, and he started last, and he moved up 20 spots in the clash where it's ultimately hard to pass at the
Yeah.
Coliseum. But obviously, based on obviously one race and the exhibition race at the clash, it seems to me that maybe the Toyota body change and the Ford body change may have helped them in a way. Obviously, especially for Ford, because Ford obviously we know their struggles last year.
Mm.
Obviously, they won races, but I mean, I say their struggles, but they won all three series championships.
Man, Ford was so bad last year. They won all the championships. It was so weird. But no, I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean. Like you're over. Yeah, they won the championships, and good for them. Congratulations to Ford. But at the same time, there were points last year where it was like, "Where's Ford? I don't know." Like,
And Stewart Haas Racing is a prime example of that. And
oh yeah,
obviously, the likes of Tony Stewart, obviously one of the owners of Stewart Haas Racing, has kind of said, "We know it wasn't our best year; it was our down year, but this is the year we really bounce back," which is going to be interesting because obviously now they're without the closer, Kevin Harvick.
right.
So ultimately, they're a pretty young team. I believe the oldest driver is going to be Ryan Preece.
Which he's probably like what, 29. He's in his
I think so.
either late 20s or early 30s. I can't, or maybe even
33.
okay. All right, so I wasn't completely off.
So with that being said, he definitely is the oldest driver in Stewart Haas Racing, and that's not even in NASCAR nowadays. That's feels like you're 25 because obviously
Right.
drivers don't retire till like they're 45 in NASCAR.
Right. No, I
Because
mean,
no, cause Briscoe is 29, Gregson's 25, and Josh Berry is 33. So Priest and Berry are both the oldest at 33, but Berry's obviously now a Cup rookie, so he is considered one of the young guys.
right. He he's a part of the young guns. Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be interesting. I think going back to what you said about the Chevy front row, I think it could be an advantage for them that they didn't switch body styles because they're using the same notebook. But
Hmm.
if after qualifying, Ford and Toyota found something that with this new body style, that Chevy might be going, darn it, what do we do?
When was the last time a Chevy won the 500? Do you know?
I mean, I know Jimmy Johnson did it in 2013, but there has to be somebody before then. Um,
I'll look it up.
Dale Jr., I think in 2014. 15 was Logano. 16 was Hamlin.
17 was
I don't remember. Actually, it might have been. Well, no,
27. 2017 was Kurt Busch.
and that was he in the Chevy or
Ford.
Ford?
He was Ford.
2018, I think, was
18 Austin Dillon. That's a Chevy, right?
that's a Chevy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Austin Chevy. So 2018.
Okay.
Because obviously Michael McDowell won in 21. That's a Ford. Cindric last or 2022. That was a Ford. Stenhouse. He's a Chevy.
Okay. So Stenhouse
So
last year.
Chevy has won two races, two of the 500, two of the last 6 years. But obviously it's either Toyota or Ford dominantly in the 500 that have
Mm,
usually won it.
mm. Yeah, I'm interested to see in general though how the body upgrades are going to be. You know, because usually when you have a new nose or a new car, you have that growing pain period. But with technology nowadays, the growing pain period isn't really a thing. It's
Right, and
uh,
I do know. Obviously, I believe the Fords obviously tried out the new body, but I know Toyota did it a lot.
mm,
They practiced the new bodies a lot at Phoenix, Charlotte. They did it a lot for the new body, so I know Toyota knows what to expect. Ford obviously probably does too, but I just know kind of following Toyota racing more for me, being a fan of Denny Hamlin and JGR, that Toyota practiced a lot, even with Legacy now, because obviously Legacy Motorsports is now Toyota.
Toyota counts up. What is that? 8 for
Yeah,
JGR cars.
JGR 2311 Legacy Motorsports.
Yeah, nice.
And
Wow,
Chevy's just Hendrick and JTG Doherty. But
wow.
Stuart Haas is Ford, but Team Penske's Ford. So
Jeez,
even that Chevys are outnumbered in NASCAR now. So obviously,
that's insane. That's insane. All right. Well, real quick, when as we finish up this episode, we'll kind of keep it short, looking probably around 45 minutes. We didn't have any much to talk about. There was no racing. Um, but let's if you are, I'll say this: give me your top three to possibly win the 500. I know it's damn near impossible to say. I want one. So
you want someone that it's like three winners, or you think or you asking who I think the top three will be?
yes.
The top three?
No, I mean you
Oh,
could
so
say
like three people that
three
I think will win.
potentials. Yeah, three
Okay,
potentials.
Ryan Blaney,
Okay.
Denny Hamlin,
Okay.
just because I'm going off of their history at super speedways.
Yep.
Hamlin just at Daytona in general.
Mm.
The third one,
Could be a long shot.
I know that's what I'm trying to think of the long shot. Um, honestly, I might go Kyle Busch.
Well,
He's not a long shot, but for the 500, I guess he's kind of considered a long shot now because obviously he's never, out of all the things he's done in racing,
he did
that's something
he
he has
did
not done.
he did come out with some promo the other day and said 20 years of trying, we've seen this one before, and it's like, huh, interesting.
So
So,
obviously he's not really a long shot because of what obviously he's one of the best. Actually, he probably is the best driver in NASCAR now.
mm,
But obviously, it's considered a long shot for him to win the 500s because he hasn't. There's been a lot of 500s he hasn't even finished.
yeah,
Obviously, last year he was close. I don't know if he finished close 2022, but he was right there. I think he finished like third or fourth in last year's 500.
I think so. Yeah. Nah, that should be interesting.
But
So,
I really feel like Kyle Busch can finally do it. Obviously, because I thought he wasn't gonna have as good of a year as he did with RSGR just because I'm going off of Austin Dillon.
right.
But I mean, but Kyle Busch had 3 wins with RCR in his first year with the Cup team in a new team. You usually don't see a driver win 3 races in their first year with a new team, despite if it's a top tier equipment or not.
Right.
But I think Kyle Busch can. This could be the year Kyle Busch finally does it.
I agree. I think Busch has a really good shot at it. And of course, the other two, Hamlin's been there before. Blaney's been right behind him usually, or
It's
around
usually
him.
Blaney. It's usually Blaney finishes second behind Hamlin whenever he won.
Right. Like I mean, last time Hamlin won was when Ryan Newman went up into the catch fence, but
Yeah, but that was
but
Blaney getting
Ryan
second.
Blaney, yeah, Ryan Blaney was right there. So,
There's
um, and of course, he's the reigning Cup champion, so he's coming into the season with not only some new hardware or new logos on his fire suit, but he's also coming in with a new level of confidence, knowing, well, I won a championship. You know,
And
like
I don't know if you've watched the full NASCAR Full Speed documentary on Netflix, but after that last episode when Blaney won, he said, "I feel like I can find. I feel like to myself, I know I can compete with everyone
right.
being a Cup champion. So obviously that gives him a whole new confidence going
Mhm.
into the season that he's been a Cup champion, that he's now a Cup champion,
I agree.
especially just now the defending Cup champion now, not even."
I agree. So here's my top three that I would say. I agree with Hamlin and Blaney, but just for competition purposes, I'll go different. Um, I like Truex, same
Yeah,
stable.
one too.
I like. Trying to think who else is there. Kyle Busch is a good one. Um, I'll say my long shot. Actually, no. My I would honestly okay. My long shot would be Chase Elliott, and I know Chase
Good.
Elliott isn't necessarily a long shot because he's won a championship and he's consistent when he is consistent. Last year being an off year, but Chase Elliott was third, fourth in August there, and as a
Mhm.
Chase Elliott fan at the race, that was a very far back third and fourth. We
Yeah.
needed that win to make it to playoffs, but he was there. So I would say that's a long shot for him, and then
Yeah,
kind of
Keselowski.
yeah, Keselowski's another one. I mean,
That just came to my head. I don't know why I didn't say Keselowski, but that
no,
was one I was
I
thinking of.
like that one because I was thinking that one too. Keselowski, he's won at Talladega. I think he's won the night race at Daytona. I don't know, but
Mhm.
any final thoughts or fast final thoughts?
I do not have any now.
All right,
I
yeah,
think we've
same
covered
here.
everything.
Well, folks, we want to say enjoy Speedweeks. Again, Fox and Fox Sports One's where you can watch it online or watch it on TV. Um, MRN and Sirius XM is where you can listen to it on the radio. But thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of Racing Hotspot. Until we see each other after the Daytona 500. For Jordan, I'm Devin. Have a great night, everybody, and see you all real soon.